Good evening, and welcome to the Connecticut Department of Transportation's public update meeting for Project 56305, the replacement of bridge number 01872, U.S. Route 1 over Greenwich Creek in Greenwich. My name is Thomas Beckman, and I'm a senior engineer with BL Companies, the consultant liaison engineers for the Connecticut Department of Transportation on this project. I would like to welcome everyone who's taken the time to tune in for tonight's presentation. We hope this will be informative and we are able to answer all your questions and concerns so that by the time we are done, you will have a better understanding of our project. Before the presentation, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items and explain tonight's format. Our presentation will last approximately 25 minutes. We will mute everybody during the presentation and ask that you remain muted until the question and answer session at the conclusion of the presentation. If you could sign in using the chat function by sending your name, affiliation, and email address, it would be appreciated. You may send a question or comment anytime during the presentation by the chat function or verbally ask via open mic during the question and answer session. Please note this meeting is being recorded. There is a chat function available that allows you to ask questions and communicate with us. You can ask a question by clicking on the chat button in the menu bar shown in the top right corner of the slide. This will bring up the chat where you can type your question and then hit enter to send. The chat box is shown in the picture on the bottom right of the slide. Please note, depending on your platform, this may look slightly different. You can ask questions at any time during the presentation, but we will answer these during the live Q&A session. I will now turn over the presentation to Susan Murnau from the Connecticut Department of Transportation to provide additional information on the project.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Susan Murnau, and I'm a project engineer with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. I would like to welcome everyone who's taken the time to tune in for tonight's presentation, and I would now like to introduce the project team. With the Connecticut Department of Transportation, we have Bart Sweeney, Division Chief of Bridges, whose photo is in the top left of your screen. To the right of him is Louis Bacho, CE Bridge Project Manager. Again, my name is Susan Murnau, and my photo is next. In the upper right corner is Matt Janikopoulos, the Right-of-Way Coordinator from the Office of Right-of-Way. Matt will speak a little later and provide an overview of the procedures followed by the department for right-of-way impacts to properties affected by this project. BL Companies is the consultant liaison engineer on this project and will work with us to administer the project. The photo in the lower left is Jennifer Usher. Jennifer is the project manager for BL and will be the MC for the presentation. You will hear from her when we get to the Q&A portion of tonight's event. To the right of her is David Chichia, a principal engineer at BL. A little later in the presentation, Dave will explain some of the hydraulic constraints on this project. Next is Tom Beckman, who you just heard from. Tom is the senior engineer from BL on this project. The lower right photo is Julie Georges, the engineer in charge for Aid to Caesar Associates, the designer for this project. Julie will describe what we plan to do to rehabilitate this bridge. As Tom mentioned, we are here tonight to discuss project number 56305, the replacement of bridge number 01872, U.S. Route 1 in Greenwich. As many of you are aware, this project has been around for quite some time and coordination with numerous parties has been ongoing. To date, we have met with residents 3 times beginning in 2013. The latest meeting was in September of last year. We have also been keeping the town in the loop and have had 4 meetings with town officials in the last 7 years. Since there are a number of permits associated with this project, we have also been working with the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. The purpose of today's meeting is to update local residents on where this project stands today. I will begin with a brief summary of the location and condition of the existing bridge and the purpose and need for this project. During the course of this presentation, you may hear us use terms that aren't necessarily familiar to you. We thought it would be helpful to introduce you to a few. The substructure is part of the bridge that supports the superstructure and the deck. Shown in red in this sketch is an abutment, which is one type of substructure element. Other types of substructure elements would be piers and wing walls. The superstructure is next and connects one substructure element to another and supports the deck. It is shown in blue. The deck is shown in green and is the wearing surface for the bridge. In darker green are the parapets. Parapets on bridges and other highway structures are safety features that prevent users from falling off when there is a drop. Here is a map showing the project location. The arrow is pointing to bridge number 01872, which is located on US Route 1 between Hillside Road and Woodside Drive. Here is an aerial photo of the project location. US Route 1 is also known as East Putnam Avenue, and in this photo you can also see the location of Greenwich High School to the left of the bridge. West Brothers Brook and Greenwich Creek are highlighted in blue so they are more visible. Dave Chichia will have a similar slide up later and will be discussing some of the challenges we face with the hydraulics on this project. This slide shows a photo of the structure taken from the inlet. The original structure is a single-span concrete slab built in 1926. The bridge has a 13.5-foot clear span and the waterway opening is 70 square feet. Based on our analysis, the existing roadway overtops just prior to the 25-year storm event, and flooding occurred here in 2007. This slide shows a photo of the structure taken from the outlet. The curb-to-curb roadway width of US Route 1 is 49 feet in this location, and the out-to-out width is 69 feet. The out-to-out width includes a timber pedestrian bridge. There are 2 travel lanes in each direction, and the average daily traffic, or ADT, is approximately 20,200 vehicles. This slide shows the project area at street level. In the photo on the left, we are looking east, and in the photo on the right, we are looking west along US Route 1. The purpose of this project is to address safety concerns and structural deterioration. This will be accomplished by replacing a bridge that is in serious condition and too small to pass major storms. There are 2 photos on the right of the slide. In the upper photo, you can see exposed reinforcement, and in the lower photo, you can see deterioration of the concrete encased beam. It is in the public interest to improve the bridge for the safety of the residents and the traveling public. In addition to being a heavily traveled road, US Route 1 is also an emergency route for the town and access needs to be maintained. In order to do that, we must prevent or minimize the chance of water overtopping the road by conveying as much water as possible and minimizing any increases in inundation. I will now turn over the presentation to Dave Chichia from BL Companies, who will explain some of the hydraulic challenges we face when trying to identify how to approach this project.
Good evening. As Sue said, my name is David Chichia. I am a principal engineer with BL Companies. I have been responsible for the hydraulic design of this project, as well as the development of the environmental permit applications. On the screen are 3 pictures of the flooding event that occurred in March 2007. Due to the amount of flooding over the roadway, the town eventually shut down the road and traffic was forced to detour. Through coordination with the town, we have learned that this was a significant stoppage, with the roadway closed to traffic for an extended time. Our proposed design has kept the storm in mind. Although the proposed bridge will not be able to convey the FEMA 100-year storm without overtopping, a storm matching the March 2007 storm will not overtop the proposed roadway. We cannot design the bridge to prevent the FEMA 100-year event from overtopping the road, since we do need to balance the increased hydraulic opening with the potential impacts to downstream properties. This is the map Sue showed earlier, with pictures placed for additional detail. Greenwich Creek flows north to south below Route 1. Downstream of the bridge, the creek turns west and flows below a stone dike. Just past the dike, West Brothers Brook combines with Greenwich Creek and the flow continues south. Approximately 150 feet downstream of the confluence, Greenwich Creek flows below the driveway of 12 West Brother Drive, and 350 feet further downstream, the creek flows below the driveway of 20 West Brother Drive. The creek then flows into a long, narrow water body and eventually into Long Island Sound. Just upstream of the confluence of the watercourses, West Brothers Brook flows below a stone dike matching the style of the stone dike over Greenwich Creek. We do propose the removal of the stone dike over Greenwich Creek, but the stone dike over West Brothers Brook will remain. The design of this project has a number of hydraulic constraints. There is a FEMA floodplain and floodway associated with Greenwich Creek. We do have slight increases in the floodplain elevation upstream of the road, with increases around 2 inches for the 100-year FEMA storm. We can't further raise the roadway to prevent this because we would essentially be creating a dam, and by raising the road further, we would end up raising the water surface higher. And we don't want to further increase the size of the bridge due to the increase in flow going downstream. At the roadway, we are not in full compliance with the DOT drainage manual, but we do make a significant improvement to potential overtopping of the emergency route. Downstream of the roadway, the larger bridge opening and removal of the dike do increase flow to downstream properties. This includes flow at the driveway bridges, adjacent properties, and along West Brother Drive. So again, the hydraulic design is a balance. We provide a benefit to the traveling public by replacing a bridge that is structurally deficient. We minimize the flooding potential of the emergency route and maintain access to Greenwich High School during the lower storm events like the 25 and 50-year storms, which our model shows as overtopping the existing roadway. We have maximized the flow of conveyance with minimal inundation increases, and the replacement of the existing roadway drainage system will increase the number of catch basins and improve roadway conditions during rain events. There are a few encumbrances. We do increase inundation on downstream properties during extreme flow events. There will be traffic impacts during construction, which the designer will soon discuss, and the roadway will still overtop during a 100-year FEMA storm event. As noted a few times, we are removing the stone arch dike over Greenwich Creek. Removal of the dike is required due to the impact it has on flow. The stonework left and right of the arch cause a blockage in flow that creates backwater extending upstream to the roadway. The dike's removal is required to prevent this backwater. If the proposed bridge was constructed and the dike left in place, the roadway would continue to overtop during lesser storm events. We have received approval to remove the stone dike from the State Historic Preservation Office through what's called the 4F process. A requirement of the removal is to publish an article in the Society for Industrial Archaeology New England Chapter newsletter that discusses the project and the proposed removal of the stone arch.
Good evening. My name is Julie Georges with the firm of A to Caesar Associates. Our firm is designing the proposed bridge. I will be presenting the proposed bridge project. In this plan view, we are looking down at the project area from above. The proposed bridge replacement, shown here in orange, consists of replacing the existing structure with a multi-girder steel superstructure supported by pile-founded precast concrete abutments and wing walls. The bridge span is being increased from 13.5 feet to 38 feet to allow for construction to take place behind the existing abutments and to provide an improved hydraulic cross-section. The profile of the road will also be raised 3.5 feet at the bridge to improve the new bridge's hydraulic capacity. The bridge hydraulics are also improved by removing a stone dike downstream of the bridge, which is shown on this drawing circled in red. US Route 1 will be reconstructed for about 850 feet. Hillside Ave will be reconstructed for about 200 feet, which includes a profile increase of nearly 2 feet at the intersection of Route 1. This slide shows the new bridge cross-section compared to the old bridge. The cross-section depicting the proposed bridge is at the top of the slide, and the cross-section depicting the existing bridge is at the bottom of the slide. The new bridge will be 72 feet, 3 inches wide, as compared to the existing bridge, which is currently 60 feet wide. The new bridge will carry 4 11-foot lanes with 4-foot shoulders. New 42-inch high metal bridge rail will be provided along the parapet on the northern edge of the bridge, shown to the left, and provided at the front of the new sidewalk on the southern edge of the bridge, shown to the right. The sidewalk will be widened from 4.7 feet to 6 feet and will now be carried by the bridge. The existing utilities can be seen in the typical section of the existing bridge. These utilities will need to be maintained during construction and ultimately within the new bridge project. The next slide is the elevation view of the bridge. This is the southern elevation, which is the view of the bridge from the south, looking upstream at Greenwich Creek. This view illustrates the increase of the span length from 13.5 feet to 38 feet and the increased elevations of the new bridge. The new abutments are shown in orange, while the existing bridge is shown in red. A portion of the existing abutments will be left in place. The new 24-inch water main is shown in blue in its relocated position beneath Greenwich Creek. The next few slides will illustrate how traffic will be maintained during construction. Construction will be performed in two major stages. This slide depicts stage 1A. In order to construct the bridge, one lane of traffic will be maintained in each direction. Traffic will be shifted to the south to allow for construction to take place on the north half of the bridge. To provide for the heavy lefts into Hillside Road from the west, a dedicated left turn lane has been added. The typical section on the top of the slide shows the elevation difference of the new bridge being constructed. The work area is depicted in yellow. A temporary bridge to carry utilities is shown to the top of the bridge construction work area and will be built first in this stage of construction. Access will be maintained to all driveways. This slide shows the final portion of Stage 1. During Stage 1B, Hillside Road will be closed. As you can see, concrete barrier will prevent vehicles from entering onto Hillside Road. The duration of the closure will be limited to 1 week in the summer if the timing is right, or 2 to 3 weekends if construction sequencing doesn't allow it to be done during the summer. The stage is required to raise the elevation of the road in this location to correspond to the higher new bridge elevation. This slide shows the detour to be provided for the closure of Hillside Road. The detour will take vehicles to Deerfield Drive, then to Lake Avenue, then to North Maple, from North Maple to North Street, from North Street to Fairfield Road, and then back to Hillside. This detour is the safest drivable route which avoids sharp turns, weight-restricted bridges, and narrow streets. Stage 2 is similar to Stage 1 in that in order to construct the remaining portion of the bridge, one lane of traffic will be maintained in each direction. A dedicated left turn into Hillside Road from the west will continue to be provided. Traffic will be shifted to the north. The work area is shown in yellow and will involve the construction of the southern half of the bridge and the roadway approaches. The closure of Woodside Drive will be required because of its proximity to the bridge construction. As you can see, the concrete barrier will prevent vehicles from entering into Woodside Drive. This slide shows the detour for the closure of Woodside Drive. The vehicles will be detoured to West Brother Drive. There is currently guide rail along the back of the curb line on the southern side of the road from West Brothers Drive to Woodside Drive. This slide shows the existing condition. With this project, 42-inch metal bridge rail is proposed along the back of the curb line from West Brothers Drive to Woodside Drive. A gap in the railing is required for pedestrians to enter into the protected sidewalk area. In this case, the pedestrians coming from the high school will walk across Route 1 in the crosswalk through the gap in the railing. To protect the vehicles from the fixed object created by the gap in the metal bridge rail, an impact attenuator will be attached to the railing. The impact attenuator is shown in orange. A photo is included to show what it looks like. At this point, we would like to bring to your attention some concerns that we have which may affect the duration of this project. The concerns involve utility relocation, in-water work, and time of year restrictions. This project will require considerable utility relocation, both temporary and permanent. It is currently anticipated that the utility companies will self-perform the relocation work, both temporary and final. At this stage in design, the cost and duration of these activities is not yet finalized. Some of the construction activities will need to take place in the water to construct the abutments in the dry. Cofferdams will be installed. Cofferdams hold back the water. Ordinarily, there are restrictions on when cofferdams can be installed in the river. The time frames are connected to when fish passage and water flow are lowest, typically between June 1st through September 30th. This may extend construction durations.
Thanks, Julie. This is Tom Beckman again. And as noted, this project has a significant amount of utilities that will be affected by construction. The following is a brief explanation of these utility impacts. The aerial utilities will remain in place for construction. However, the contractor will need to provide temporary support of the utility poles for specific construction activities. Underground utilities will be relocated to facilitate construction. Some will be placed on a temporary utility bridge, some will be relocated to the utility poles, and some will be protected in place dependent upon the utility. These utilities will be supported by the new bridge upon completion of the project. There will be environmental permits due to the impacts to the inland wetlands and Greenwich Creek watercourse. The anticipated permits include U.S. Army Corps of Engineers pre-construction notification, Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, or Connecticut DEEP, individual flood management certification with exemption, Connecticut DEEP individual inland, wetland, and watercourse, and Connecticut DEEP water quality certification. There will be right-of-way impacts associated with the project. These include 8 construction easements, 2 drainage right-of-ways, 3 partial property takes, and 1 property take of a small piece of town property to consolidate the state's right-of-way. I will pass it off to Matt Giannakopoulos to explain the right-of-way acquisition process.
My name is Matt Giannakopoulos, and I am a project coordinator with the department's Division of Rights-of-Way. It is our office's responsibility to acquire the property rights needed for transportation projects. The proposed project design requires the acquisition of property rights, so I'd like to give a brief overview of the department's right-of-way acquisition process. Please keep in mind, though, that the specific impacts are still being fine-tuned and may change as the design progresses. Any property rights that will be required will be acquired in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes Sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E. And whenever there is federal money used in any aspect of a project, the department must adhere to the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970 as amended. Once the design has moved to the point where we are ready to begin the acquisition process, each affected property owner will receive a formal letter of intent to acquire from our office, along with a property map which depicts the exact property rights to be acquired. At that point, our office will determine the fair market value of those property rights and use that value to establish an offer of just compensation. That offer will be sent out to the property owner in writing, and a right-of-way agent will be available to meet with the property owner and explain the project, go over the specific impacts to their property, and explain the state's offer. The property owner will have a reasonable time, typically at least 30 days, to consider the state's offer and enter into negotiations. If an agreement is reached, the states will prepare all the necessary paperwork and record the deed and the property map on the town land records. However, if negotiations reach an impasse, in order to keep everything on schedule, the department may acquire the necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. In that event, the state files a notice of condemnation in the Superior Court along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The owner would have 6 months from that date to file an appeal if they felt that the state's offer was inadequate. Whether or not the owner chooses to appeal, the money that was deposited in the court is available to be withdrawn by the owner, subject to the discretion of the Superior Court. I know a lot of people, when they hear the phrase eminent domain, thinks that it means the state just takes their property for $1. However, the owners are entitled to at least the state's original offer of just compensation, and the state only takes title to the property rights that are needed for the project. If there are any questions regarding the department's right-of-way acquisition process, I'd be happy to address them once the presentation has concluded.
Thanks, Matt. This is Susan Morno again, and this next slide shows our estimated project cost and schedule. At this time, we are anticipating construction to begin in the summer of 2022 and take approximately 2 to 3 construction seasons to complete. We are currently estimating a construction cost of approximately $10.6 million, which will be paid for with 80% federal funds and 20% state funds. No funding will be required from the town. Please note that the schedule is preliminary and is predicated upon the availability of funding.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you all for attending tonight's presentation. As indicated, we are here tonight to update the public on the progression of the design and to answer any questions or comments. You may share your questions or comments in two ways. First, you may verbally ask your question. We ask that you raise your hand and you will be called upon to speak. When you are called upon, you may select unmute to ask your question or provide comment. We will try to call on you in the order in which your hands are raised. Second, you may ask a question by clicking on the chat button in the menu bar. This will bring up the chat where you can type your question and then hit enter to send. I will now turn this over to Jennifer Usher of BL Companies, who will be the MC for the question and answer session.
Good evening, everyone. As Tom mentioned, my name is Jennifer Usher, and I am with BL Companies, and we are working on behalf of the Connecticut Department of Transportation to administer this project, and I would be happy to help address any questions you may have, questions or concerns. So as Tom mentioned, you can use the chat function. Other than that, if you would like to speak, you can also raise your hand and we can call on you. Actually, I see that Peter, and I apologize if I pronounce your name incorrectly ahead of time, but I see that Peter Tessay has a question.
Yes, good evening. My name is Peter Tessay. I reside at 4 Indian Pass, which is off of Indian Field Road, within about a half mile of the proposed project. As point of information, I most recently served as the town's first selectman from 2007 to 2019. One, I want to applaud that the project is being done. It's been a long time in the making in terms of receiving funding and designing and so forth. So I'm a proponent of the project. My primary concern is the impact it will have on traffic, and particularly the residential and nonprofit community, meaning our schools and the transportation to and from schools. Could you assure the audience that there's adequate funding to cover traffic control? And one, and then two, who is going to be responsible for the traffic control? Will it be the Greenwich Police, flag persons, or Connecticut State Police?
All right, Peter, thank you very much. Well, I appreciate your support of the project, and regarding your questions, I'm going to look to see if someone from the designer, do we have someone from A to Caesar who would like to just discuss the traffic MPT that's going to be in place during construction? Julie, I will hand it off to you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I might need a little bit of support from my team as well, but we do anticipate that we'll, you know, that the use of the municipal police will be minimized by the staging that we're doing. Well, you know, with the one lane in each direction, the cars will be channeled through the barriers there, so that would probably be minimized. But I do believe that it is municipal police, and Joe Solis, you know, that is, can you confirm that?
Julie, this is Art. This is Art DeCesar with A DeCesar Associates, and Joe could chime in as well. But with regards to traffic persons would be paid for under the contract. There would be a provision in the contract for monies to reimburse the contractor who would be, shall we say, employing the traffic persons when needed. But as you say, a majority of the work will be protected behind the concrete barriers that would be in place. But costs with regards to traffic persons would be included in the project and paid through project funds.
That's a good point, Art.
Thank you, Art and Julie. And I see also Elizabeth Dempsey had her hand up, so I will go to her with the next question.
Yeah, hi. Could you explain what generally a construction season is and what the working hours are?
Absolutely. Julie, would you be able to touch upon that for the construction season?
Yeah, sure. Generally, the construction season would be going, you know, from April through November. Sometimes the contractors will ask to work different timeframes than that. And actually, I do know we have someone from the district who could be more specific about that. But we would expect an ordinary construction season and not to work during the winters. Again,
Great.
I think. I'm sorry.
Sorry, the timing during the day as well?
I don't believe that there would be working at night. Just wouldn't. We, for the most part, the bridge construction is what we call prefabricated elements. So once they get the elements, there won't be a lot of need for the contractor they'll just simply be putting the precast elements in place. But as we said, there's a lot of time of year restrictions and utility work that has to happen, in advance, but we would not expect night work.
Okay, great. And also the timing of during the day. So do they start 8 o'clock, before 7 o'clock? When do they finish?
Julie, again, this is Art DeCesar with A. DeCesar Associates. With regards to time of day, I certainly would be careful with regards to any noise ordinances for the town of Greenwich. If I were to suggest a time frame, things would be starting between 7 and 8 a.m. and most likely finishing by 3:30, 4 p.m. There may be some special needs to bring equipment in, outside of those hours, but our perception is that it'll be a Monday through Friday construction week with daylight time frames in that range.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. I do see here that we have a question from the user's name is Nix, just asking in the chat. It says, who in the town of Greenwich municipal government has been informed of this project? We have actually worked with quite a few people in the town since the project inception, including the Department of Public Works, Deputy Commissioner. We have a couple of them on the phone here. So we've been working alongside of them, and actually they've given us a couple things of input that we've incorporated into the design to make it more amenable to the town. Additionally, I see another question here from Lars Forsberg. The question is, has any consideration been given to simply dredging the existing creek bed and just repairing the existing structures? I am actually going to hand this off to Dave Chichia of BL Companies to answer.
Sorry, could you repeat the first part of that?
Absolutely. The question is, has any consideration been given to simply dredging the existing creek bed and just repairing the existing structures?
Creek bed, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If we did that, we simply will not be providing enough hydraulic opening for these storms. The existing is 13.5 foot wide, proposed is 38 feet. It is a significant increase, and just dredging out some material and rehabilitating the existing bridge will not provide the area required to pass like the 25, 50-year storms without overtopping. It truly needs to be replaced to improve the hydraulic condition.
Thank you, Dave. Again, just checking in the comment box, going back to the user with the name of Nix, there was a question about, will there be a comment period for the residents, and will the materials presented this evening be available online? To answer both of those questions, there is not a set comment period. However, we would absolutely encourage those attending tonight or those being able to view the presentation afterwards. If you do have any comments or questions, you can certainly reach out to one of the email addresses that we'll provide at the end of this presentation. That is the main purpose of this project, or this presentation rather. So please do so. Also, another question from CD iPad. It says, what local approvals, for example, IWWA, are needed given that the state does own all of the land at this point? I can answer this, and Dave, maybe you can jump in if I miss anything, but so it is a state project, therefore we're not subject to the local inland wetlands approvals. However, we are subject to going through the state Connecticut DEEP and the Connecticut DOT's Office of Environmental Policy. So all of the permits environmental wise, we actually have to obtain through them.
Very true. Yes, there is no local approval process because it's a state project. We have an Army Corps permit as well as the Connecticut heat permit.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. I see we have a resident, Jenny Larkin. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, thank you very much. So I own the property on the corner of Hillside and the Post Road. So this project will be happening all around my property. I'm also the one featured in all the photos of the floods in 2007, which was the last big flood we had here. So I guess I'm just curious about what is the design going to look like from my perspective, and not specifically, but you mentioned a sidewalk. On the other side, it is sort of suspended because it hangs over the water already. But can you just speak a little bit about, because you mentioned hand railings, and so how much does that affect the sidewalk that's on the side that's adjacent to my property? And I did want to say that I'm in support of this project because I do think it's going to ultimately alleviate flooding for myself and my neighbors upstream who have experienced flooding in the past from storms.
All right.
Maybe this is Julie. Maybe I can just explain that on your side of the road, Jenny, the sidewalk will look pretty typical. I think that what we were trying to do with the metal bridge rail on the opposite side of the street is to replicate kind of what's out there now.
Okay.
There is a need to sort of protect pedestrians, and so on your side of the street, it'll look a little more typical.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Let's see, and please just everyone be patient. We will get to all the questions. It looks like we got a lot of good questions and comments in here, so I want to make sure we do have time to get to all of them. So if you can bear with me, we will do that. I'm going to ask Ashley Cole, I believe. You have a question?
Oh, hey, yes, I wrote it down as well. I'm wondering if you have identified which properties are in the condemnation profile. And after that, my other question is landscaping for the areas that will be, there's going to be a lot of soil turnover. There's going to be a lot of greenscape that is disrupted. And will the state replace the landscaping or help that area in that way?
So let's see. Oh, Julie, did you want to speak? Nope.
I don't believe there are a lot of landscape is affected by the fill slopes at this point, but I can't commit to that. But if there are trees that they are often addressed through the right-of-way process, and perhaps Matt, you could make a little a point about that.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. This is Matt Janakopoulos from the Division of Rights of Way. And when trees and landscaping are impacted, that are located on private property, are impacted by our project, by our acquisitions, that is taken into consideration in the compensation. So when it's on private property, the owners are compensated for their loss of landscaping. If it's within the existing state property, then I don't know if there's a landscaping plan going to be developed for this project, but that might be a situation where you might see some plantings going in. But when landscape on private property gets impacted, that's addressed through the compensation.
Can we request a landscaping plan?
I'll turn that over to Jennifer. I don't know if there's going to be a landscaping plan as part of this project.
Yeah, Jennifer, I'll take over from here. There is landscaping proposed. Landscaping was designed in-house by DOT staff. The features of the landscaping are really focused on slope control and plantings where stormwater outlets are. So the property just north of the roadway in question won't have tree placement, but any ground disturbed will have what's called, I believe, just longest lawn establishment seating placed. If there is any requests then that can be discussed internally and we would have to get back to you.
Thank you, Dave. Art, I see did you have anything else you want to add?
And again, thank you, Jennifer. And again, this is Art DeCesar with A. DeCesar Associates. There is turf establishment for lawns that are being affected as a result of the construction. And so I just wanted to add that in as an affirmation that it is part of the project.
Thank you, Art. Let's see. All right. And again, I apologize if I'm butchering anyone's name here. It looks like Raj McCann or McCann, perhaps, has a question.
This is Raj Markham. I live on Brookridge Drive. You know, as most people who live here know, that this is one street which is parallel to Hillside and does carry fast traffic in normal days. So I don't pretend to guess what will happen to traffic in that street when this is blocked. So I think the impact should be higher, not lower. So has there been any thought to perhaps putting temporary road restrictions or bumps or anything there to slow the speed? Because I would imagine there'll be a lot more traffic on the street.
And I'm sorry, the street that you're talking about is Brookside or Route 1, just to be clear?
Brookridge. Brookridge is parallel, not Brookside, Brookridge.
Oh, Brookridge, okay. So you're asking if there's been any consideration to putting any sort of like speed bumps or speed humps on that?
Exactly.
So I'll just take a stab at answering this. So that street is actually out of the state's jurisdiction because it is a town-owned and maintained street. So it's not necessarily part of this project, but that's something that perhaps you could speak with the town if there's safety concerns there. But certainly not included in this project. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but this area right here. Yep.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Just going back to some of these questions here. Gentleman named Fred is asking if pedestrian access sidewalks will be affected. Does someone want to take that question?
This is Julie.
Art,
yeah, sorry.
Sorry, Julie. Art.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there will be, that there will be some portion, sometimes that there will be some changes in pedestrian access during construction, but a pedestrian plan is provided. Pedestrians will always be accommodated, but maybe not on every side all the time.
Yeah, and Julie, this is Art DeCesar again. I just want to add, and you said it well, the pedestrian traffic would coincide with the stage construction and be maintained at all times. But if the southern portion of the bridge is being rebuilt, then pedestrians would be on the north side of US Route 1. And if the north side is being built, then the pedestrians would be on the south side of US Route 1. So one of the two sidewalks will always be maintained.
Thank you both. I appreciate that. Elizabeth Dempsey, it was asking about will the two-lane traffic be restored during non-construction season? November to April restoration would provide a lot of relief until the bridge is finished. So I guess I believe the question is asking about winter shutdown and would the two lanes be restored?
Jennifer, this is Art, and I think I could start it off, and Julie, feel free to add if you think so. With regards to the winter shutdown, I might suggest that it's not going to literally be between November and April. It becomes a question of sequencing and staging. There are, as Julie mentioned earlier, there are precast bridge elements that are going to be part of the construction, and if it works out that those elements could be installed later in the year, meaning outside of the fall period, meaning into the winter, there would be no reason why that couldn't happen. The difficulty of trying to open up the roadway during that period of time is the considerable change in elevations, whereas the new bridge is being built about 3 feet higher than the existing bridge. So once the construction starts, the transition would have to be made, and that wouldn't be able to be made until the bridge is in place. So we don't foresee a dormant period of 6 months during the construction seasons.
And just maybe to add on, it would not be possible to shift it back and forth because of the elevation difference that Art's mentioning. So
Thank you. All right, let's see. We have a question from Amy Dates Carbone asking if, will this project coincide with the repaving of I-95, which will add more traffic to Route 1? I am actually going to see if someone from the district is available to maybe address Ms. Carbone's question.
Yeah, this is John Deliberto from District 3 Construction DOT, and I'm not really sure of the timeline of the I-95 paving project, so I can't really speak to that. And I wouldn't think too much traffic would be routed off of 95 onto Route 1, so I don't anticipate much impact. We could certainly get more information on the schedules of the two projects and follow up.
And just make sure. Yep. Thank you. I appreciate that. We can get back to Ms. Carbone as well if she's looking for additional information. I believe she actually has Lou's email address. All right, let's see. I'm going to switch over here, and I promise I will get to every question. We have a gentleman by the name of Mark Dawson. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, good evening. I'm Mark Dawson. I'm Deputy Fire Marshal for the Town of Greenwich Fire Department. And my purpose tonight is to look at your project and go through several of the road closures you just mentioned. The first one being Woodside Drive closure. Will these and then the second Hillside Road closure, will these closures allow emergency apparatus by them when that road is closed?
And let's see, I am going to hand that question off to Art DeCesar of A. DeCesar Associates.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mark, the quick answer is you will have access. When Woodside is closed, it's closed, but and just bear with me with this answer, it is open. In other words, there is a way in from the east end of the construction zone, and so you'll have nothing preventing you to actually entering that roadway, as well as Hillside. When Hillside is closed for that 1 week period of time, it's really paving work that'll be occurring, and we would imagine that there'd be no reason why your access would be inhibited if it was essential to get in.
Okay, I appreciate that, because the concerns for fire protection coming from the Coscob station, which is Station 2 in the hub, and then from headquarters, you have a area from the Millbrook Club to the Post Road that is accessed by Station 2 versus naturally the high school and the houses there. So to go around those things, prevent or creates a longer response time for us for emergencies that we need to be at a timely fashion for. So if there are going to be any of these roads that are not going to be accessible, we need to look at those, so then we can put together a fire protection plan for the residents in those areas and the other structures that, whether town owned or not.
I'll just add this. It could be a little bumpy.
Well, when you say bumpy, we're used to some of the dirt roads and backcountry area that we service. However, we also have some very large and heavy apparatus that may not tolerate that per se. So we need a grading plan that's appropriate for heavy vehicles, whether it's a triaxle style vehicle or our largest truck, which is our ladder truck, which is 88,000 pounds. So those are our concerns. And if there needs to be some discussion, I'm more than, I've been assigned to this project through the chief of the department, so I'd be more than happy to meet with your teams to assure that the residents will have the fire protection that they have today without the construction.
I would say absolutely that's something we would want to do. Just to be clear, we have been kind of sharing the design all along with the town, but we would be more than happy to meet with you to make accommodations as necessary for the protection and safety of the residents. So if we can get you probably your information and contact information from the town, and then we can set up that meeting afterwards to go through that. We're right now at the 60% design stage, so we can show you those plans.
That's great. And I know James Michael was on the call. He has all my contact information
Perfect.
if I need it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your time. Let's see. I am going to go here. We have, I'm going to try to pronounce this. Let's see. Is it Kulukundis? Has a question here. It says, how will the flow under the new bridge affect West Brother Drive, and will the existing channel of West Brother Drive be adequate to allow the water to flow through the lake without spilling over onto West Brother Drive? I am going to actually hand that question off to Dave Chichia with BL Companies.
Okay, so that is a downstream area and downstream property that is going to be receiving more flow. Simply put, the existing West Brother Drive overtops during the 100-year event, as will the proposed. There is little, we cannot prevent this, basically. Water is flowing downstream. Just in the existing condition with the smaller size bridge, again, it overtops the residential driveways. It overtops onto West Brother Drive. Plainly put, we're bringing more flow down your way. So with extreme storm events, yes, water will be overtopping. Your normal flow, normal conditions, you won't see any change, but the downstream properties do see more inundation after the proposed bridge will be built. Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. And I just want to take a moment before we go to the next question, just to remind everyone that we do have a couple different ways that you can ask your questions or provide comments on the project. If you go to the bottom of your screen, there is a chat option. You are more than welcome to put your question or comment in there, and we will get to it. Additionally, there is a raise your hand option that you can click on, and we will call on you so that you can ask your question as well. So let's see, I am actually going to read this question. It is from Ralph Mayo. It says, I am wondering if anyone has contacted the school district about the amount of traffic that will be headed to Greenwich High School. There are 2,800 students and over 300 staff members headed to school between 7:45 and 8:30 every morning and leaving at 3:15 each day. And let's see, do we have someone perhaps from the department that would like to?
Jennifer, yeah, I can
Thank you, Lou.
address that. Sure. Yeah, I'm Louis Bacho with the Connecticut DOT, and Ralph. We've been in contact with Jim Michael, but yeah, you bring up a good point. I'm certain we can adjust construction schedule. So maybe maybe they wouldn't start construction, until after the schools, most of the school buses have come in there. And then maybe there's a time period, maybe in the afternoon where, we can maybe have them, pause work for a little bit to allow the buses to leave or allow the students to leave in their cars. The only thing I would, there's no, as Art and Julie mentioned, there's really no way to reestablish, 2 lanes. We're going to always most likely have 1 lane each direction. So, stopping work, I don't know if it will help flow traffic through there any better than if they were working. There's still going to be only 1 lane each direction. We did, as pointed out earlier, we are going to establish a left turn lane. I think it's west-east there to allow traffic to flow a little bit better during construction. But yeah, certainly this is something we can look into. I realize there's quite a bit of students there, and it's very busy in those rush hours in the morning and in the afternoon. But we'll be in contact with Jim and with Amy Seaford and Jason to maybe discuss some options we can look into. I don't know if Ralph, you have any option, or you have any recommendations that we can maybe look into as well that maybe I haven't brought up or that we didn't think about.
And actually, I see that Ralph has his hand up right now, so I don't know if Ralph, you want to add to that, perhaps?
Oh, yeah. I would just say that I got two things. I'm the principal of the high school, by the way, just so that's why I'm a little concerned about getting the students in and my staff in on time to start school on time. So, and getting them out on time when it's time to leave. But it's not just the high school traffic. It's also that's prime time for our commuters that are going to work as well. So it's not just high school traffic. It's high school traffic combined with people that are headed to work. And to go back to that other question about I-95, they're going to close exit 3. So the natural thing for people to do would get off exit 4, which would head right into that project to go southbound. So I think we all better coordinate a little bit better, because 95 is closing at 3. We're going to close that exit and work on that exit. And people are going to get off at 4, and they're going to head right towards our construction zone. And also, we need to think of a better way other than stopping construction, because it's still going to be one way going north, one way going south. We're still going to have to figure out a better way to get kids in and out. Otherwise, the line of cars is going to go up the post road all the way back to Lord knows where every morning. So I think some coordination with either DPW from the town and the state would be really great, so that we can get this project done, which needs to be done. I've been working at that building since 1976, and there have been times where you can't leave Hillside Road because it's flooded. The post road's flooded. So this is a much needed project, but again, we have to worry about the safety of the students and the staff, and getting them out in a safe manner. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. We appreciate your comments and concerns, and we'll certainly follow up with Jim Michael and company to ensure that we're working with you guys closely on that.
Hey, Jennifer, I'm sorry, can I just interrupt for one quick second, just to go back to, I think Amy asked a question, and then Ralph brought up again about the I-95. I was able to find out on the DOT obligation plan. There weren't too many projects in Greenwich, and this must be the one. It's 56-316. And I don't know if John's familiar with it or not, but it looks like it is going to start based on the schedule the fall of next year. So it looks like, unfortunately, it will coincide with this project almost. I don't know how long that project's supposed to last. I'm not familiar with it at all, other than just the dates I gave you. But yeah, we'll work, to see, again, like John had mentioned, I didn't know how much traffic's going to be, if it needs to be pushed on Route 1. But we'll certainly coordinate with that project as we get closer to the finish line for our design here. But I think that must be the project, if that's 56-316.
Yeah, and Lou, again, this is off the seas. If I could add to it, if it's a paving project, generally speaking, the paving projects are nighttime projects, whereas the traffic that I think we're talking about, certainly for the schools, would be daytime traffic. And so, although they may be occurring on the same calendar day, the time that they're actually happening could be quite different. And then the only other thing that I just wanted to add to what was being said with regards to traffic into the high school, there is a signalization at the intersection with Hillside, and that could be taken a look. We could take a look at that to see how that could be sequenced to help the cars, shall we say, or the vehicles coming in and out of the school. So those things could be looked at as well.
I would love for you guys to take a look at the traffic well, not now because the traffic's kind of light right now, but in September when everybody's coming to school again, to see what it looks like on a typical day. Because it's not great on a typical day. So with 4 lanes. So just wanted to make sure that somebody's coming out there to make some observations.
I just want to make sure, does anyone else want to add anything to that? I mean, I will say I do know that we are kind of competing with, because the school, from our understanding, within the last couple of years recently changed the start times. And so those now kind of coincide with the rush hour of the commuter traffic. So we are kind of competing with that as well, and trying to take it into account. But I do think that Art made a very good observation, which is the signal there, we might be able to optimize it during specific times to allow for, you know, basically better ingress and egress into the high school during those hours that you were naming, Ralph. So.
But Jennifer, those signals have already been optimized by the town. So
well, optimized during construction. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, because there'll be a little bit different course. I mean, there also is, you know, just another consideration just to think of. I mean, obviously people do utilize US Route 1. If they do feel that they're being delayed, they will, you know, and they can find an alternate route that will basically reduce their commute time. You know, that will happen. So that's another kind of added component to this project, if you will. But I do understand what you're saying as far as the signals being optimized at this time. It's more during construction when we have that dedicated left turn lane in place and the actual MPT for the project. We need to look at, I think.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Let's see. I see that we have perhaps a question from Eric Brower. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I'm Eric Brower. I'm a land use planning consultant that's working with the Millbrook Homeowners Association on how this project will impact their community. And I know representatives from the board have been in touch with Louis, you know, since the original presentation, and will continue to be in touch with him, as well as the town officials who are concerned. My concern for tonight is specific as to the impact on sediment transport. Understand that in order to carry the flood flows so that there isn't overtopping, that the bridge will be substantially widened, as well as the removal of the stone dike. And so with the tremendous increases in volume of water coming through, I think it'll be pretty evident that the sediment that is over the years historically settled out in that little pond just immediately south of Route 1 on Greenwich Creek, that has actually served as a sediment trap. It's been dredged several times, and you can see today, obviously, it's almost completely filled back up again. So part of the plan, as I see it, is to remove the dam, the small dam that's there that creates that little pond, and put in a stone weir. So the question is, have you evaluated the amount of sediment that's going to now move its way down with the new flows, and which inevitably is going to wind up then settling out at the first lake on Millbrook, because that's where the flow will then reduce its carrying capacity for sediment. So has that been actually looked into? Is there plans for having some kind of similar sediment trap that would be able to work with those increased flows?
Thank you, Mr. Brower. I am going to hand this over to Dave Chichia to address your question.
Thank you.
Sorry for that. Simply put, sediment transport is not part of the analysis of this project. We realize there is that little bit of sedimentation at the just downstream of the structure where the water does twist to the west. The wider bridge, we are hoping, will slowly flush this downstream, but you are correct. It will just end up at the long, narrow water body as it makes its way, hopefully down to Long Island Sound. Again, we do not have any dredging proposed for this project. we do not anticipate adding that to this project. We truly just want to replace the bridge and then see, then the town will judge the effect.
Right. So and again, we'll follow this up because you may not be proposing something for sediment trapping, but you are in effect removing a sediment trap. And as I said, twice this pond has been excavated. It's in a very convenient location where you can access it, distribute the sediment. It's been disposed of upland through pumping. So that we have an existing condition now that will be changed. And so the alternative of having it float down to the lake system, and it will trap there, it's not going to make its way to the sound. There's a series of lakes. So that burden is now going to fall, apparently, we'll have to see how that works out, but on the association, and removing it from the lake that's surrounded by fully developed residential properties is going to be substantially more difficult than to be able to utilize the existing sediment basin as it's been done in the past. So it may not be part of your plan, but as we go forward in this, I would encourage you to look into that. I see it as actually an obligation to have it addressed, since it's a trap that's being removed and will adverse resources, inland, wetland, and water courses that are within the town's jurisdiction downstream.
But please keep in mind that that stone weir
Yes.
that controls that pond, that will be disturbed with construction in the cofferdams, but it will be rebuilt. We are also including what you mentioned before, that rock weir just downstream. That's to allow fish passage to hop up first the rock weir and then that stone weir. So my idea of the title of the more flushing is due to the larger opening, and that's going to disturb some of that area within the larger opening size. But don't think that we're removing that stone weir that's controlling the pond's thermal water surface elevation. That will remain.
Right, so those details aren't clear from the plans, at least that I've seen, is that one will be, the existing weir is accommodating existing flows and sediment transport and is serving a very good function. So it's just, it would be increased flows. The question is whether or not that's actually even gonna serve as a sediment trap given the increased volumes. If the stone weir is not effective, it's just gonna blow out over the top and again land into the pond. So again, that's something we'll be following up with Lou on, I suspect. And then one last comment, sorry, it's tangential related to Mr. Mayo's comment. I know in terms of timing of construction, I think the town also is planning on replacing a bridge in Bruce Park, and that is a current bypass for a lot of people who get off exit 4, head south through the park as an alternate means to access downtown. And I think one or both lanes are going to be closed for a significant period of time. So that's another just traffic impact, I think, to look into.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Brower, that was Bruce Park, you said, Bridge?
Correct, Bruce Park. Okay. So southbound exit 4, you would turn left on Indian Field and you would go west below the I-95 and then get back in to town below exit 3.
Okay, thank you. We will follow up with the town on that.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Eric. So Jennifer, I did get a little mouse in my ear here that understanding that the project that Eric just mentioned will be completed before our project starts. So yeah, that was just
okay.
related to me. But yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have to say, I mean, there's definitely no doubt we're dealing with a lot in this area. It's definitely, you know, kind of the center, you know, just of a lot that's going on with the high school being there, it being US Route 1 and everything. So, you know, trying to address a obviously flooding problem that we have in this area and kind of for the safety of everyone so that they can travel through US 1, you know, during a significant storm event and not be blocked by flooding. So there is going to be a little bit of heartaches, but we're doing our best to accommodate as many people as we possibly can while still constructing the project for everyone's safety. So All right, let's see. Just going through again on the questions here. Actually, Ms. Dempsey, I see that you wrote a question in the chat, but I also see you have your hand up. So would you like to just perhaps voice that if you don't mind?
Sure. Thank you. And I think actually some of my questions were also voiced by Principal Mayo. So thank you for that. It was just more to highlight it's not just the students, but you know, parents come to pick up their kids. So I literally don't know. I know you have to do all this, and I really appreciate all the engineering and expertise that this has to be done. But it's going to be really crazy because, you know, people are used to picking up their kids, and I'm a little concerned as a neighbor right across from the high school just about any ability for an emergency response. It's going to be pretty tight, but we have amazing, Jim Michaels is really conversant on all the traffic issues. So I'm sure you guys will be able to handle it, but it's a little bit of concern. I was also just wanting to highlight that at the same time, there's going to be a lot of remediation, and we have been warned truckload after truckload, thousands of tons of toxic materials will be coming by throughout the summer as much as they can to get certain fields remediated. So just was hoping that you all are also coordinating on that. Because I don't want any trucks spilled on Hillside Road. Thank you very much.
That is very understandable. Yes, actually, Jim Michaels made us very aware of that right from the beginning, that would be something that's occurring during the summer months that we will have to coordinate with and work around based on their hours. So again, something we've been aware of and working to do our best to make sure both contractors can kind of work within, you know, each other's footprint, if you will.
And lastly, I would just add for all the Greenwich people listening to this that we highly, highly, highly advocate for a second form of egress to one of the largest high schools we have here right in the state, that there's only one small road that is the access point. And it certainly would be amazing to have that second access and or driveway during this period. So I think we lost on the budget round, but anyway, just wanted to put that out there that it could be very interesting, Fred. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dempsey. Appreciate your comments. Let's see, just moving down on the chat here. One second, that was Eric. Jenny Larkin is asking the question, where will we find a recording of this meeting and or copy of the presentation? Lou, would you be able to, I believe we talked about this going up on the department's website or the town's?
Yes, yes, Jen, for sure. So we can give a copy of everything to the town, and we can also post it on the DOT webpage, where you can access it there too. So I think we can do both locations. I think that's possible, right? I know this is this is sort of our own recording here, but I think we can put them on both locations where people can access. And what we can do. You know, we can give a link to the town so that they can have a link to our website at DOT as well, because that's what we do now, Ms. Larkin. We you know, after we have public info meetings, we post the recording and the presentation and the slides on our website so people can view afterwards.
Great, thank you. I just didn't know where your website was.
Yeah, no, understandable. Sometimes it's hard for us to find as well. Sometimes it's always under construction, it seems like. But yeah, we can certainly you know, either have it there or have it there and at the town. So,
and you post the video, because we only post audio recordings. So I was just it would be great to have a video of the meeting or the audio with the presentation.
Yeah, generally we'll have and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, we have a video of the presentation, and then we might have we actually have a video. We'll have an audio of everything, right? Correct. Of all the question and answers that happen afterwards. So the whole thing will be there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going. Let's see. I see again from the username Nix. It says, I did not hear the answer to the question. If Greenwich Board of Ed was informed of the project, have they been or not? So I will say, as kind of on behalf of the department, we have been working closely with the town, mostly with the Department of Public Works, and I believe they've reached out to folks, just kind of making them aware of the project. So our conduit is really through them. So hopefully that answers the question you had. And let's see, another question here from Ashley Cole. It says, Ralph Mayo is correct. I-95 will be happening. There will also be remediation going on. How is this area going to handle all this? So I think we already touched upon this a little bit. You are absolutely right, Ms. Cole. There is quite a bit going on that we're going to have to coordinate with, and we are in the process of doing that. But as new projects kind of come about, that's more for us to coordinate. And I see that you're unmuted. Do you want to, I'm sorry, do you want to ask more questions, Ms. Cole?
Sure, I'll just, we are concerned that the neighborhood is very concerned about the incredible impact this is going to have on us and all the students across the street and the parents. I think the parents are gonna go bananas. I think it's inevitable. But I also think that rerouting our traffic several miles that seems impractical. There's got to be a better way than to go all the way up, around and over to Deerfield. I don't know. I think maybe we could look at that and do a little better. The other thing I would like to mention is that this is a very sensitive historic area. And this neighborhood is one of the most historic, intact neighborhoods in all of Greenwich. And looking at those metal railings just gives me the chills. Can we do better than that? Can we make it beautiful and make it, because we're rebuilding it. Can we make it handsome and attractive instead of industrial?
I will hand that question off to Lou with a.
Yeah, sure. Ms. Cole, to your first question about the detour, I apologize if I misunderstand or misunderstood, but the detour that we're talking about is only for a week in the summer for Hillside. Is that the detour you're talking about?
Oh, is that all we're going to be detoured for? Is just a week?
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's not so horrible.
Now for Woodside, that will be a little bit longer, correct? Correct me, Art or Julie.
Yeah, that is anticipated to be longer.
Yeah. So
and one other thing to add about the detour route, it is we call the safest way. So the cars that can make more acute angles and the people that live in the area will know how to get around it better. It's long because it's at right angles, mostly no narrow streets, no weight restricted bridges, and it is short.
Right. So they'll find their shorter distance. You're saying, Julie, right? If they won't necessarily take the longer way. But yeah, Ms. Cole. So that's only for a week, and the one for Woodside will be longer. I don't know if that was the one you were referring to. That'll be, I think, 4 to 6 months. I think, Julie, if I'm not, in the
I think that's the time frame we're.
Okay. And then to your question about the railing, we are going to give that a coating, a black coating, the rail against along the sidewalk there.
That doesn't make me feel better.
Yeah, unfortunately, once we put something there, it's got to be what we call zero deflection, because anything that's there that's sort of more decorative or more aesthetic generally isn't going to be protective. If a vehicle would hit that, it could, injure someone on the walk that's walking. It can deflect more than it's supposed to. So we have to have almost like a zero deflection. So generally, as you may surmise, that's got to be a lot beefier, and it's not going to be as aesthetic and pretty as something that would be maybe not as sturdy.
Well, can we have the railing and then cover it with stone? Is that possible? And still have the metal railing inside of it?
You mean stone on the outside, on the back side of it?
Yeah.
We don't. Unfortunately, we have limited room there to add that type of facade in that area because of the deflection, Lou. That we basically need to add that zero deflection for there.
I see. It just would be nice because we're tearing up that incredible historic stone structure in Millbrook, and to kind of replicate that, I think, would be historically a nice thing to do.
Yeah, and, you know, we can look at it closer, but like Jeffrey said, I think we're limited by the room there. You know, if you put some stone on behind the railing, then you're infringing on the sidewalk. There's really not, you can't push that railing out to the roadway any further, obviously.
Okay.
But you know, it will look better than, you know, obviously the shiny galvanized. We are going to improve on that, but I understand, you know, it's still not going to be something that, you know, that is pleasing to the eye, you know, especially for Greenwich. So
I appreciate your concern, and I am concerned, but is there somebody that we can work with to see what kind of options we have as to enhance this and make it really attractive? Because this is really one of the big centerpieces in Greenwich is the high school here. Mm-hmm. We're going to be, you know, landscaping the waterfall. You know, it needs to be beautiful.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I would be very appreciative and grateful if we, the neighbors and the citizens of this town, could work with you all to make this as attractive as possible.
Sure. I mean, like,
just one thing to, sorry, Lee, if I could jump in, just one thing I want to make just to add to this conversation. The open bridge rail is, we need to have an open design to accommodate the hydraulics. So we wouldn't be able to do just a solid design, if you will, just something to consider, that's all.
All right, thank
just
you.
something else, I'm sorry, to add to this is that the shapes of those parapets, you know, have to they're, for safety reasons, have to be they have to be comprised of certain elements. There could be other features that could be added to it, but that can't really be taken away or shaped differently to provide the same safety characteristics.
I get that. Can we think about how we can make this, you know, pretty?
I think we could look at perhaps, and Julie, maybe we could just look into this as I'm just thinking about something to do with the parapets, or whether we do some sort of stamped, you know, with like a 3-tone type of, you know, stain or something to kind of give it more of that stone wall look to that particular element.
We
of the
have
bridge.
proposed a lot of form liners along with the retaining walls, and I'm going to say the outsides of the retaining walls where there is an actual concrete piece. But we will have those railings, those metal railings will attach to some concrete pieces, and we could put some kind of a form liner look on the end blocks.
That would be nice.
Just whatever we can do to maybe dress it up a little in there. And there is, you know, you can actually stain the concrete after you put the form liner, which is essentially like, you probably have seen it where, you know, then they make some really nice ones now that kind of stamp the concrete into that stone wall form. And then you go back through, and I've seen it done with like a tricolor, which makes it look very much like an actual stone wall versus just, you know, something that's been stamped. So that may be something we could do.
Well, I'm on the sustainability committee here in Greenwich for beautification, and I would be happy to volunteer and work with somebody to make sure that this is representative of our lovely town. So please don't hesitate to call me, and I'm here to help.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would assume we would be able to get your contact information through Jim Michaels?
Jim knows me very well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, let's see. We have another question here from Peter Tessie. It says, if you can confirm the mechanism for the public to register concerns or and obtain information once the project is underway, for example, in other words, the website, email, and most of all, the name of an individual person to speak with. So it sounds like you're talking, the question is once the project's in construction. So once the project is in construction, it will actually be administered by the district at that point. So John, there will be a public notice for the project just to say that it is going to construction, I believe. And there would be contact information that would be noted in that public notice. Could you confirm that, John?
Yeah, so there'll be a press release issued leading up to the project, typically 30 days to 2 weeks before the start. And usually through the department's website, you can contact, there's a general contact information there, phone number, as well as an email address. And that will then get routed to the project team directly, and someone from the project team will reach out to whoever's asking and address their concerns or provide any information they're looking for.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Let's see. I'm hoping I did not miss any questions on the chat. I will say if I did for some reason, if you could just repost it, I would greatly appreciate it. I want to make sure we're not missing anyone. Also, I don't see anyone else with their hands raised. However, I do see that we may have a couple people that are joining us via phone and may not have the access to the video. Is there anyone who is just on the phone who would just like to ask a question? Feel free to unmute yourself. Give you guys an opportunity here. All right. I'm not hearing any. It just looks like it was like one or two people there. So, and I do not see any more questions coming. Oh, excuse me, wait. Oh, no, just going to repeat this. Ms. Dempsey just mentioned, thank you for holding this, and we appreciate all that you are doing to make it a safe bridge and road. And I'll say kind of on behalf of the department, we thank you back. This has been a very complex project, and we appreciate you bearing with us, kind of why we iron out a lot of the complexities that came along with this design and traffic. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And if you guys can just bear with us one moment, I'm going to put, oh, actually, Lou, are you putting your email in the chat for everyone?
Yes, that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, and I'll
apologize. It broke up. I hit enter, and then yeah. So this is it should show up here in a second. Where'd that go?
And
so anybody, I'm not sure why it's hitting, but it's my first name dot and my last name, so it's LOUIS.BACHO@ct.gov. And that's the best way to reach me. I think my phone number was on the letter we sent out to some of the residents and to the town. But we're still working remotely, so that the best way again is to by my email.
Lou, Tom has added it to the chat.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Tom.
And hopefully you guys are, can you guys see that up on the screen right now?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. I'll leave that up there, and if anyone else has any other questions or comments they want to add, we'll just give everyone another minute or so. I do see it's around 8 o'clock, so I don't want to hold anyone up here. Oh, thank you, Ms. Cole. I appreciate that. Got her contact information. All right.
You know, Jennifer, I just thought of something about the beautification. Didn't we, or weren't we discussing something along like with with Hillside and like a planting bed or something between there? Was there a raised median we were looking at some point? Did that, maybe that's more for Julie or Art or someone, but I know we were looking at that at some point, like a raised area between, I don't know if that,
I think it's raised today, Lou. We could certainly look at doing something in there. I mean, obviously it's decorated now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. All right, well, I think that's it. So thank you again. Appreciate everyone. This is a great turnout for this project. So thank you very much for coming out. You have Lou's email, so please feel free if you think of anything else, whether it's a question or a comment, please feel free to email. We will be continuing on, kind of moving forward with the design. Our next stage will be the 90%, and you know, going to construction soon and get you guys the safest bridge we can. So thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Great job.
Thank you, guys. Take care.